Hello, beautiful boss babes. Are you ready to chase life with Kelly? Well, I'm your host, Kelly Chase, and I'm so excited you're here. We are going to talk about all things love, dating, relationships, money mindset. We're going to dive deep into self-love, worthiness. I am going to bring on some incredibly empowering guests. We're going to have fun, we're going to laugh, and perhaps we're even going to shed some tears together. I am here to empower you, inspire you, and motivate you to create the life you crave. I am so excited for today's episode. Let's dive in. Hi, babes. Welcome back to the show. I am so honored to have the guest that I have on with us today. Her name is Rebecca. She is a couples therapist and sex coach for women and couples. But I had the pleasure of working with her earlier this year, over the spring and summer. And she sent me a message on Instagram and just feeling really called, I guess, to reach out to me. And, it's funny because it's like some DMs I see, some DMs I don't. And I just, divine timing. I feel like I was called to see her message, and, she was offering just some support for me, and I leaned into it, and it was very, very needed at that time and changing. I mean, it was definitely like so supportive. Her work is just very powerful, and, what she did for me is just, I know that that's the greatness of what she holds for her clients. And I know for her other clients, she does even greater work, which we're going to talk about more of because it's such a great topic. I love. But yeah, I just want to really welcome you to the show. And I'm excited for our conversation, Rebecca. So thanks for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Welcome. Absolutely. So, okay. So you are a couples therapist and sex therapist. I guess you're a sex coach. How did you get involved with that?
Funny. Yeah, I know. So funny enough, I actually, with 11 years old, I already told a friend, I become a couple therapist. I have no idea why I said this. So my parents are actually happily married still. So no idea, but it was already there when I was younger. And it was not that I straightforward went to it. But looking at my path now, I kind of did without knowing. So studying social work, doing educations and counseling. And then at some point thinking, this couple therapist education sounds pretty nice. Let's just go for it. And yeah, the moment I did it, it was just totally clear for me that this is really what I want to do. I could tattoo it on my forehead because it's just who I am. And after years of searching what exactly I want to do, this was just very soothing for my system.
Wow.
And yeah, and also the sex part in this is then more personal influenced than professionally influenced, and just grew with it, I would say.
That's neat. Yeah. Did you have, as far like you said, the sex part of it, more of a personal thing, was that a personal journey of yours that you felt like, hey, I want to learn more about this for myself, but then that's how you evolved it into being able to coach other people, other women and couples, I guess, in that regard?
Yes. So I was actually very lucky in mostly having really good intimate moments with good guys. So I'm very blessed in that. And when I was 19, I had a super great partner, so good-hearted and loving, with whom I was since a year together. And after sex, I suddenly cried, and I just didn't get it. And the only explanations I had at that time was either he's wrong, so the relationship is not right, or I'm broken. So this was the only thing available. And going down on that story, I told myself, it really caused so much pain and so much self-hatred and pain in the relationship, which was, really, really influenced my life, I would say.
Yeah. How did you move through that?
Yeah, so of course, I mean, what do you do when you are 19 and you are thinking like, oh, there's an issue, and it also didn't go away. So every time I cried, and he was also confused, like, am I doing something wrong? Am I hurting you? And I'm like, no, I have no idea. There's just something wrong with me or us. I don't know. And I was talking with friends, but what should friends say? Like, yeah, maybe, as we know, like if the sex doesn't work, then the partner is not right. Yeah, which brings you even more into these thoughts. And I, of course, also like Googled it or read in magazines where you find like try sex toys and kink and role play, lingerie, stuff like this. And I like did it all. It didn't help. Like also like one night really like choreographed a little sexy show for my partner with zero much feeling it, but thinking like that's how I finally get normal. That's how it's supposed to be. Yeah. So completely unembodied and just with what I think I had to do. And I even ordered like little drops on the internet, like Spanish Fly, I think was called, where you are supposed to be horny afterwards, which does not work, surprise. Yeah, but every time it doesn't work, you think like, yeah, you see, I'm just so broken, or my partner is just not right, because obviously everyone manages, but I don't.
Yeah.
And yeah, we had it for years. And of course, I shut down more and more. We got more in distance, and it just caused us a lot of pain. Till I then, yeah, found after years of pain, yeah, different perspective of like how vulnerable sex is and what sexuality also is, and like kind of conscious sexuality, tantra, all these things which have so different perspectives than what we think. And then it was still a path, but then at least they were like, oh, it could also be something else. And this was very good. Yeah, because I just ran with these two explanations, which just brought me down more and more.
Wow.
So this was quite good.
Yeah. So what is the, I guess, like, you know, like those different things of tantra and just the different, like what is sex, I guess? Like, I think we as a society have very limited views. I mean, I know that was something for me too. I mean, the broken story was something that I resonate really strongly with because I felt that way. I mean, I did not, as my listeners, if you're new, this is going to shock you, but if you're not and you know my story, I shared this, I have a whole episode on this. But you know, I was not able to have an orgasm during sex, still have not. But I was never like pleasing myself. I was never like, I never knew myself. So for, you know, my adolescent years to up until 4 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, that was my story. Like, oh, I'm broken. Like, oh, I'm not having an orgasm. I'm not climaxing during sex. Then there's something wrong with me. I'm broken. And it was frustrating for my partners or boyfriends. You know, some of them didn't, you know, it was either we were too young and immature and it just wasn't a thing, or it was getting frustrating while being intimate with that person. But then it was just, well, you're right, she's broken. Let's focus this back on me. And instead of really trying to like dive into it and work through it and work on it. But I didn't know that those resources were even available. I just thought I was broken and that was it. So, you know, but then learning and like going through, you know, just a lot of my personal development and mentorship that I've had over the last handful of years, it's like pleasing myself was literally a homework assignment from one of my coaches. She was like, we were talking about the subject of orgasmic manifestation. And I was like, well, I don't know if I can relate because I've never had an orgasm. And she was like, oh, okay, well, we need to focus on that because it's the feeling that an orgasm gives you that we're going to use for manifesting. And I was like, okay. So anyways, yeah, she was like 30 days straight. Go to town.
So cool.
Okay. So, you know, it was funny. It's been quite a journey. And so, I mean, that is why I'm like very, I guess, sex positive in a sense. And I believe that it's it's something that, sex can be shamed, or speaking about sex, or, masturbation or whatever, self-pleasure, like a lot of that can be very shameful. And maybe that's something also I never did. I never had a vibrator or whatever, because I thought that was dirty and that was like wrong or whatever. And now I'm like, okay, it's a part of my everyday. So it's interesting. But yeah, can you like expand on that? Like why, like what society teaches us around sex and what it can be?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you for sharing. And I can imagine that that's like super hard. Yeah. I mean, what you were saying with what you learned, what sex is, that's really some work you got to do there, because it influences you, of course.
Totally.
If you always learned like it's dirty, it's a bad thing, even if you like enjoy, and even if there is like a great partner, there is still a little voice or a little part which is uncomfortable and afraid.
Yeah.
And influences what's happening in any way.
Mm-hmm.
So respect that you worked on that.
Thank you.
And also with the brokenness and not being able to orgasm, I can also imagine that it's so much like, okay, it doesn't work, so don't bother. Mm-hmm. And then it just stays like it.
Yeah. And it was just like a repetitive story that I'm like, it's fine. Like, it's fine. Let's just focus on you. Like, it's totally fine. And, like I said, I mean, I still haven't gotten there during sex. But at least I know that I'm not broken, because I have been able to pleasure myself and I can orgasm.
Yeah, of course. Yes, I can imagine that's very empowering. Not that you like have to have an orgasm. So I very much want to like say this out. Yeah, you don't have to come during sex or self-pleasure, not at all. Right. But it can be empowering to do so, and it can be very beautiful if you and your body feel like it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just the feeling, if you get yourself to like a really, what I've discovered, I guess, is like just getting myself to a very relaxed, present state, like through everything that I do now, it's like manifestation work and law of vibration, law of attraction, and just yoga even, and like going for my walks out in nature. It's all about being radically present. And so I feel like that's a really big thing about self-pleasure. It's like I get lost sometimes because I'm just so lost in the moment, because I'm so like relaxed and just present, and I'm in a state of being. And yes, sometimes it takes an hour, and sometimes it doesn't even happen, but at least I'm there, and I'm just like, God, it just feels so good right now. And every worry that I have is melted away, and life is really good right now. And I think that, granted, that's your orgasmic manifestation. It's like, that's where you got to get yourself to. It's about being present.
Yeah. And celebrating you for sharing. Like sometimes it takes an hour.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't happen. Yeah. Yeah. Because when we were like talking about the picture, it's like the woman also needs to come in the time in which the man comes, and it's just different. Like women bodies, women pleasure, it builds up a bit more slowly than man's pleasure builds up. So that's already a big difference. And for saying like it takes the time it takes, that's just how my body works, and it's totally normal, and there is no stress. But that's, of course, not so easy when you are in the middle of it and with a partner. But for all the women listening, it takes the time it takes, and all is super fine with you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. It's funny because like, a partner I've had in the past, like, I feel like they're getting riled up, and I'm like, no, you back off a little bit, because I'm not ready. And I just feel like, granted, I just like don't, because it's feeling really good for me. And I know that with that person in particular, it was like, okay, but when they get off, we're done.
Yeah.
Versus, okay, well, that's great, you got off, but like I haven't, and I'm still not completely pleased. So like, are you going to come back to me?
Yeah.
So, that was a missing link in the communication there. I could have been like, okay, great, you might be tired, but I'm not. So can you like come back over here and like focus on me again, or what? So I would like be like, I feel like you're getting close. You're going to back off for a second, get yourself, control yourself, and then we can get back into this a little bit more.
Yeah, totally yes for communication and yes for saying your desires.
Yeah, exactly.
And the communication part. I mean, I see this so often that what is wrong or what is in the way is that couples don't communicate. Yeah. So sometimes it just needs like 2 sessions and a space where they can finally talk about it and where I ask the questions and then, oh, it was so easy. So I just needed a vibrator because she likes to come during it and it's a bit difficult with the position. So a vibrator could help. Problem solved. So sometimes it's really just this like communication thing, which is in a way, or I don't like to have sex in the mornings and you always approach me in the morning. So it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And then you think like, wow, people, and that's not what you talked about in like 5 years.
Right.
So that's, communication is a big one. Yeah, but coming back to the picture, sorry, I got lost.
That's okay.
Yeah, I mean, what we mostly see is like the people having both lust, about both in the mood for it, and then it's like wildly kissing, falling onto the bed, both are coming best at the same time, and then they're like happily lying next to each other. That's what we mostly see, but I really think that's quite not the reality, especially of long-term relationships. Maybe at the beginning sometimes, at least my experience and what I hear from others. But this cannot exist in a daily life. We have 2 children and we are both working and we have to do household and care for parents and friends and whatever. And that's just not a reality. That's super hard. So like saying a bit out there, that's not where you have to get yourself into. That's not how you have to functionize. So I think sex can really change over time, and it's good to communicate how you want it and also to be open at where you are at. Like taking time, making appointments, how unromantic it sometimes is. Maybe even planning what you're gonna do and talking about it. All things which can help on a practical thing, on a practical issue.
I love that. What type of so as far as I guess like just the communication aspect, like you said about like making appointments and planning for sex, with the hectic world that we live in and everything, like having that conversation with your partner, like how do you address that? How do you introduce that?
That's a very good question. I mean, mostly the couples are with me, of course, and then I can like tickle this a bit out of them and like bring it out there. But I think it can definitely help to like sit together when you have some space and say, hey, I really want to like make our sex life even better than it is, or really like bring it back to life, or live it in a different way, which fits even better to where we are at right now. And do it in a moment where there is time, and tell your partner what you like about your sex life, what you liked in the past about the sex life, what you love about his or her body, really connecting first and valuing what was or what is. And look your partner in the eyes, maybe take his or her hand and really take the time to connect first. And then you can bring up like what would be super nice for me would if we, for example, make an appointment that we can really have a good and relaxing time with each other, because often I feel so stressed. Or saying like, when I would really like to come, and sometimes in the positions it's difficult, and I love when you sleep with me. I love all what you do, but I was thinking we can try this out. What do you think? So being very appreciative about it, and you can also really say like how it makes you feel, like this would be exciting for me, or I find it sad that we are not as often connected as I would like it to be. So expressing how you are feeling and what your suggestion would bring, instead of like, I don't like how you do that and I want it that way.
Right.
Yeah, but I think also like talking about this is kind of a seduction of like bringing your partner on board, because also for him or her, it's super sensitive. Like, oh, they don't want to do anything wrong. They don't want to be a bad lover. So it can bring already a lot of like defenses up if you start the talk. So be gentle and go maybe for like 1 or 2 suggestions with the reasons why, with the emotions per time, and not put it all on.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask, is like, how do you I guess address it without it seeming like they're doing something wrong, or they're doing something, you know, not correct in the bedroom or whatever, or making them feel like insignificant, that, oh, like I'm not meeting her expectation or his expectations kind of thing. So just approaching it with a very gentle tone and being like, hey, like you said, kind of like in a seductive way.
Yeah.
Thought about ever trying this?
Yeah, exactly. And I think it's so sad that we mostly think that we need to know what we want and what our partner wants, because we just don't know. So, I mean, there are like 2 totally different people coming together, and then you are supposed to know what the other person likes.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah, even on a long term. And also this can change over time. So it's so sad that there is not much more communication in general about it, that we are not expecting our partner to know how we come, for example, how they can seduce us, how we like to be touched. How should they know?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, they just don't know. And just because they maybe learned it from ex-partners doesn't mean that I want to be touched like his ex-partner wanted to be touched.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So it's actually really a getting to know each other, and also staying curious. Is there more to discover at this body I already know so long? Because very often we know what we like, and then we always go for that.
Right.
Why can it not evolve? Why can we not just stay in this curious mindset and explore each other and grow with each other, and always finding new things at the other person and seeing how we can make it even better while staying in communication?
I love that. Yeah. Granted, we already talked about this, but like maybe expanding on it, like why is it that we don't know how? Like that we don't know how to have these conversations. I mean, obviously it's not something you learn in school. But I feel like our like biggest life lessons, if they were taught in school, like the things that we really need in life, you know, it's like we would be such a more evolved society if we just had that. But it's like, from when did it become a thing to not communicate and to not express ourselves? You know, it's what is your thought on that?
I am not sure, but I can imagine that, especially with sexuality, it's not that long that it's so free, right? Because my great grandparents or so, they like married because there was maybe attraction, they liked each other, and they super fast married. And the pleasure of the woman especially was not so much in the center of attention, I presume. So this is just how society was. And I think still with my grandmother, it's similar. Like the female pleasure, how important is it, and how important is sex, and is it important to explore sex wise, or is it not just fine to have it because you are supposed to have it? Probably not for all grandmothers and great grandmothers, but from a society perspective, sex was more shamed, and it's not so many decades freed yet. So, and also like all the female sexuality and the female sexual power, and that we like want to have orgasms and stuff like this. That's a more newer thing. And so I think there is still a lot of shame in us, and maybe also the perspective of men that they just have to know how it works. And that we really come together and talk about it. I think that's really pretty new, and what we probably still have to learn. And then, as it's also such a sensitive topic, it's just hard.
It definitely it definitely is a challenging thing. It's like, you're in, like, while you're being intimate with someone, you're in one of your most vulnerable spaces, you're naked, you know, it's like you're so vulnerable, but then like communicating takes you to that extra level of vulnerability. And it's just scary and just like, oh my gosh, you know, and it's then, I mean, granted, personal experience, it's just like, okay, speaking up about what you're wanting or communicating what you like, what you don't like, it's like rocking the boat in the sense of, okay, if I say something, is it going to make them not like me? Is it going to make them not want to be with me anymore? Or is it going to cause waves in a relationship? Like, you know, but it's like we have so many fears that are keeping us back from like liberation and like just peace, you know, and true happiness. And it's like we just have those conversations, you know, if it, like I said, creates conflict or rocks the boat, quote unquote, then that person is probably not your person.
Maybe, yeah. Or you can still work together.
Yeah.
So I'm all for working together and learning together, but
totally.
Yeah, it's difficult. And like you were saying, like the communication about sexuality is even more vulnerable and even more naked, like next level. Yeah. So maybe it could also help to like talk with your partner and say, hey, I really want that we don't lose our sex life and that it evolves and we are evolving as people. And how about we try to communicate about it? Like, would you be interested that we find a way how we communicate in this vulnerable way? It might not be easy and we might be hurt, but should we try to find a way in this?
I like that.
Maybe it could also like set up the stage for these kinds of conversations, because then your partner already agreed on and understood with her mind, okay, it's a good thing.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. I had a conversation with a man, a male, a couple of months ago, I guess. I met him at a speaking seminar and
Where you are.
Yeah. It was a very empowering event. But then we had shared some drinks, some cocktails together. And we were just like getting to know one another and stuff. And he had shared with me that he had gone on like a sex retreat for men and learned like how to actually pleasure a girl, like how to actually pleasure a woman and like all these things. And he goes, I mean, it's like driving a car. He's like, you don't just like know how to drive a car. You have to like, you don't get your driver's license and you get in a car and you know exactly what to do. Like you have to go to driver's ed and you have to go to school or you ride with your parents or, you know, it's like, you have to be taught. He's like, so us guys, we don't know what the hell we're doing with you girls. Like, he's like, so we're just like, yeah, maybe we're watching porn or we're trying to figure it out, or like through experience, we're trying to figure it out, you know? He's like, but like this retreat that I went on was so powerful because I actually understood like how to get a woman to be in a very relaxed place and like that's what she really needs. And like to actually support a woman in the intimacy. And I was like, that is so amazing. I love that for you.
Totally. Yeah. Wow.
That's awesome. I think every person should have a sex retreat. We should all experience that.
Yeah, so much.
Yeah. Because I'm sure there's so many things that we don't know as women, like how to please a man in certain ways. Like, yeah, this is what I like and whatever. I feel like maybe my experiences, guys, have been maybe a little bit more vocal. But yeah, but not all. So they're just as timid or shy, or they don't know what to do or say in the bedroom either. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, very much. I mean, also with self-pleasuring, we often don't experience so much. Like there is a certain way and then we go with that. And it's now amazing that the guy you met learned that. I think very many women not even know that. Like, how do I get myself in a relaxed state that I'm actually open for sex and orgasm?
Right.
This has to work.
Yeah. I was like, that's cool.
So that's very great. Yeah. And I was at a workshop where you like learn how you can please a man also in different ways. So there was like the octopus and the screwdriver, and there were like all these, the catapult, and there were all those different things where I thought like, and I thought it's so easy with men.
Right.
And then you get to know like there is a bunch more how you can like bring them pleasure at certain places.
Okay. Yeah.
So
Are the
that's
sexual
super.
positions what you just named out? What is an octopus?
Oh no, I don't remember, but the screwdriver I remember, like holding with one hand down there and then screwing,
Oh,
screwing
okay.
it up with the
You're
other
right.
hand.
Okay. Got it.
That's, for example, something they showed. And with catapult, you can make your own imagination of this, how this can look.
That's hilarious. Like an octopus. What is not? I don't have to Google this.
I try to find a photo. I think I also have a book. So, but there are also different ways, which probably most of the men not even knew. Right. I talked with my husband about it, and he said, like, yeah, there's like one way or two, and that's all.
Wow.
And that's probably how he goes his whole life. Same with us. There are also different ways how you can massage differently and how you can make it longer and expand. And so that's not what we learn.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, absolutely.
Great that guy that learned that.
Yeah, yeah. And that was like, when you just mentioned the word massage, that was like one of the things that he said. He was like massage is really important for like getting a girl relaxed, you know, and like on the insides of their thighs, like massaging and like kind of like tickling like the inside of their thighs to a point where they're relaxed, not for 2 minutes. Like this could be 30 minutes. He's like, but get them like in a nice relaxed state. And that is one way that you do it. And I was like, that would relax me.
Yeah.
But it was very interesting. Speaking of like how do you get in the mood? What are some like other ideas, I guess, of getting someone in the mood to even have sex?
Yeah, so I think it's quite individual still. So there's this concept of like Bangford and Janssen, they say that we have like brakes and accelerators, like at a car, and certain things are pushing our brakes. Like, I don't know, the children are sleeping in the other room and they are not fully asleep yet, or you are not smelling so great out of your mouth, or I just woke up and I'm not there yet. Stuff which really puts on the brakes, and there are things which are putting on our accelerators. Yeah, so good smell or nice atmosphere, or when I'm caressed in a certain way in my face, or when I'm like grabbed and kissed. So there are different ways, and it's very interesting to find out what these are.
Yeah. To
really think about, you can also think about what were good experiences in my intimate life with partners or with myself, where I had the feeling like, oh yeah, that's bringing me in the mood. Yeah. So really think about situations and what exactly was it, and think about the room. How would you like the room to look like? How would you like to be dressed or not dressed? Would you like to be showered or not? How should your partner be dressed? So do you like kissing or not? What kind of kissing? Do you like caresses? What kind of caresses? Do you like massage? Do you like oil? What smell? So you can really go quite on the detail. Yeah, do you like to be looked at? Does this turn you on? What position turns you on? Sounds, smells, music. So really like think a lot about what like really turns you on, and you can even make a list with that. Yeah. That you're aware of what do you like. Right. Because a lot of things are not that hard. Like putting on a candle is not that hard. Putting up the perfume you like so much is not that hard. But if it has the effect, very great. Right. Yeah, absolutely. That's so true. Bringing awareness. I mean, with everything, it's like bring awareness to it, and that is like what is going to create, the change or the impact that you're looking for, or the desired outcome that you're looking for. Yeah, very much. And with the brakes, so they are saying it's of course great with the accelerators and important, but you also need to really look after the brakes, because like with the car, you can like accelerate how you want. If the brake is like fully on, then you might get forward, but not so flowy as you want to. So really first look how you can like have the brakes not so much pressed. So for example, with the couples who come to me who haven't had sex in a long time and who have children, and they say like, oh, with the children next to us and not really time, I just can't concentrate. I cannot surrender. I cannot be there. And the whole time thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it's good to think like, okay, it might not be so often then for now, but make the ideal situation. If there is not sex at the moment, try to create the ideal situation. So where can your children go?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be overnight. Where can they go for 2 hours, 3 hours?
Yeah.
Are there grandparents? Are there friends? Whatever. And then take the time, have the appointment there. Like, not work if everything is not working at the moment anyways in the sex life. Not try to work with brakes on. This
Right.
makes it so much harder, and you just you cannot win, let's say.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And after a time when you like get into it again and make good experiences together, then there can also be children. But for now, it's more like perfect situation creation. Even if it's just like every 6 weeks, it's still better than not so good sex or no sex.
Absolutely. Yeah. What would you say is like, okay, whether it's individuals or couples coming to you, what are some of like fears that people have like around being more intimate or communicating with their partner?
I think the most fears are actually that, they will never find a partner because they are broken, or that the relationship will break because they don't manage to have sex. That's mostly it. So even though they might have sex for fun, and when I ask them like, what do you have from sex, then they might say like fun or relaxation, but still their fear is, if we don't get this, then it will not work. And then the love will go, and then the partner I actually love will just leave me.
How do you coach them through that, I guess? Or like, what's a tip?
So that's a bit longer answer. So I have like a model I always like put on the ground. It's I crafted it a bit, and I show them where sex like happens. And this is a frame of like, for example, what's happening in the world. So that's always weird for them. That's the first thing I put on the ground. And they say like, hey, what's happening in the world? What does this have to do with my sex life? How does it influence it? But it's so much influences. COVID, Ukraine, we feel maybe unsafe. We might feel stressed or worried. It does something with our nervous system. It does something with us. So that's one layer. The next layer is like family and friends. If we have conflicts in the family, if friends are sad or going through hard times, it influences how we feel, how much energy we have. We might carry something of their pain on our shoulders and be influenced by that. Then we have, of course, like the couple health, which makes sense. So how happy is the couple together? How is it going between them? If their relationship would be a plant, how does it look? So is it like nicely fat and the leaves are open and it's like towards the sun and there is enough light, or is it a bit brownish and like thirsty? So how would their plant look at the moment, and why? And then we look at individual things. So that's, of course, like libido, but it can also be stress at work, or it can be that they are at the moment working on projects or dreaming about building something up for themselves, and this influences them. So all these individual things. And then we have things under the surface. So this can be like trauma. It can be the body picture and the level of self-love or self-hatred. It can be how you were talking, I think, in the two podcasts before about attachment. So there are attachment patterns which are playing a role in sexuality too. So there is like a bunch of things which can influence it, which in the end was it also for me. It was not a trauma, but it really took quite some years till I felt it in a coaching, that it was actually like constant boundary crossing in not sexual situations. It had nothing to do with sex. I was so shocked, like, how can it influence me in sex? So it doesn't have to do with your partner or with sexual assault. It can even be different things where you are not thinking of, which could be saved in your body and in your nervous system, which are influencing that. So all this stuff under the surface, which is hard to grab often. And then, of course, the atmosphere in the room. And all these layers are influencing how you feel.
Yeah.
And this is influencing how much you are up for intimacy or sex. So that's the frame. And with the couple, we can then go through these different layers where something comes up. So they can very fast say like, oh yeah, I don't like my body. Or they very fast start crying when I say the word trauma. Or they say, yeah, we have a lot of conflicts actually. Yeah. Or the woman says like, I don't feel supported or seen by my partner. Of course, she shuts down.
Yeah, of course.
So there we look, okay, what's like outside of sex? They think like, yeah, we don't have lust, so we have a problem in sex, but that's not necessarily the case. Yeah.
Wow. So it's all about bringing awareness to what the stories are that are the stories, experiences, situation, environment that is preventing you, keeping you stuck, keeping you disconnected, maybe all of that. It's just bringing awareness, because we're, like you said, it's like sometimes it's the stories that we aren't even like, we wouldn't have connected them, like you said, like boundaries or whatever. Yeah, it's like we wouldn't have ever connected that, but that is what is actually creating us to be this way,
Yeah, very much. Yes.
So fascinating.
Yeah, so that's like the frame in which sex happens, where I then talk with the couples about. And then we also have like two lines. So we have like the life before, we have the like someone's coming to initiate sex a certain way. We have the foreplay, we have if they're like men and women or men and men, where there might be penetration. And then we have the sex itself and the getting out of the body of the woman, which is also just something. This is where I started crying back then. So that's also a moment where you need to bring awareness in, because there happens separation again. And we have the afterwards, and then the life continues. And then you can really go, or I go with the couples through, okay, so how is someone's initiating? How does it work? And do you like it? How are you feeling? And that's often where we actually stay, because that's all. Yeah. So the woman might not be completely up for penetration. And then she thinks like, oh, better have nothing. Better say no at A before I have to go till Z, kind of. And then nothing happens. They might be up for certain things, but they think they have to have penetration, and that's not what they want.
Right.
So they say no right away. Even though they might be up for cuddling, for kissing, for any other kind of petting, but not for sex.
Right.
So that's often very interesting. And the man just always feels rejected and thinks the woman doesn't want him at all.
Right.
And they don't communicate.
Yeah, and then they don't communicate, and then they think, something's wrong with one of them, and the loop. That's so important. And I feel like a lot of, and obviously I'm a woman, so I'm speaking from that experience, but I feel like a lot of women, like, we crave that non like sexual pleasure even more sometimes, just because we like being cuddled, we like being like, that is a very I want to say like a love language, in a sense. It's like, we don't have to have the penetration, we just want someone to make us feel loved. And it doesn't mean that sex equals love and love equals sex. It's just hold me, listen to me. That is also a pleasurable experience when you have someone that's just existing with you sometimes,
Yes. Yeah, and then you can talk about the boundaries. So then with my couples, we are talking about the boundaries. Okay, what at the moment can you imagine? What's like inside of this box of possibilities and what's outside of the box? And then you can do what's inside. And you can also like say it now, the couples, the women who are listening. So you can say to your partner, hey, I think I'm up for like kissing and like touching us a bit, but I think I'm not up for penetration. So what do you think?
Yeah.
And then at least you try it and you can talk about it, and then you can go into that. Right. And not have to like say no because you think it has to go all the way.
Right. That it's always going to lead to that. And
exactly. Yeah. Or I'm up for sex, but I'm not up for how we had it the last time. So Maybe we can like spice things up a bit with this or that.
Yeah.
So communicating what is okay.
Right.
Or also taking the time and saying like, oh yeah, I feel you are like in the mood. Let me shortly check in what I'm in the mood for.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe also communicating this before, like, hey, I often now said no to you. I think it has to do because I'm often not in the mood for penetration. So should I just try and feel into the next time what I would be up for? And maybe we can still be close.
Right. I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes men say, yeah, but I really want to come. And then we can also agree on that. So is it okay if you like make your man come?
Right. Yeah.
Or is it okay if he just makes himself come? Is this okay if it's next to you? Is it better when he goes out of the room? And finding a way with that. So like having both desires there and coexisting. And it doesn't have to be like nothing's happening.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Communication.
Yeah. And also just sex doesn't have to be penetration. So I also like put other papers underneath where there is nothing written on. So it can also be like initiation. And then there's just whatever. But it doesn't have to be penetration. Sex not always has to be that. Right. And really widening that word.
I love that. Widening the word. I love that.
Yeah.
Expanding. I love that.
Yeah, and also getting awareness of why you are actually having sex, or setting different intentions to sex. So you can have sex for having fun, for relaxing, for having an orgasm. You can have sex because you want to really connect. You want to like spread the love. You want to feel your partner. You want to, feel held and safe.
Right.
Or you can also do it for getting to know yourself more, like personal development, healing. Yeah, for maybe feeling something, being really aware, like maybe kind of meditating while you are having sex and feeling what's happening and letting the emotions flow while you are so close. This can also really accelerate your healing and your personal development. So there are different intentions, and depending on what intention you set, you get a different outcome.
Yeah.
If you go into sex for having fun, it will be different than if you go into sex for feeling safe. And also this is something where couples can play with and try out and think about, what do we now actually have sex?
Right.
So why are we doing that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Because I wonder how like, how many people do it, have sex because that's their only way of connecting.
Yeah.
Because they're not communicating in the bedroom, but they're really not communicating outside of the bedroom. And so they feel like that's how they can be intimate and connect with one another. But in reality, they're still not connecting. Yeah.
Very much.
Wow. Yeah, that's so good. I love that. It's all about awareness and communicating, and I just love all of it. Oh my God.
Yeah. And so like little advertisement here. I have this orgasmic yoga class, which I do once per month, where I really like help women to create a space for themselves and like self-pleasuring, potentially awakening their body, getting to know each other, playing with intention, with breath, with some like neo-tantric practices we do to really first, get to know themselves and create that space for themselves. Because of course it's all about the communication, but if you are not so sure what to communicate and what you actually want, then it's also really hard to do that. Yeah. So
absolutely.
If anyone is interested in that, that's there, and that's very beautiful and such a safe space. It's mostly recorded, so you don't need to be afraid that your camera is on. And you can really have the safe space for yourself, and you have quite time to dive into it. And it's quite a celebration. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, like I said, I mean, as you mentioned, it's like won't know what you're communicating if you don't know. If you have to communicate, you got to learn yourself first.
Yeah.
So, yes. And that was, like also, going back to the orgasm manifestation conversation, it's like, we were trying to have a conversation around manifesting and business stuff and all that. But also it was like, okay, well, I need to do this because I need to know how to communicate what I like and what feels good and what doesn't in the bedroom. Like, it's about learning who I was and learning about myself. I mean, the more that we learn about ourselves, not just in a sexual way, but anyway, it increases your confidence. Like, you know more about yourself. So of course you're going to be able to speak more intelligently about yourself.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. What is, can you explain like what is, if it's, just like unheard of to people of like tantra or tantric, I guess, like what is that? What is tantra?
Yeah. So it's origin, like, for example, in India, but also in other Asian countries. And yeah, you could see it also like as a way of looking at the world. Maybe some kind of spirituality. So often we in the West just know it under sex and practices, but that's very much not it. So there are also like very conservative lines in there, which are also judging about sex. So it's really like a big spiritual way of looking at the world. Yeah, maybe also some things you might know from yoga. Everything is connected, for example. Yeah, but here to the West, it came very much in the realm of sexuality, because it also says that energy can be freed if you go in the topics where there is a lot of shame in society. So when you like free this shame in a person's body, then there can be the energy flow again. Then there can be the connectiveness again. That's why we have it a lot in the West with that. But of course, like if you are looking for a tantra teacher or so, really pay attention that it's not just a massage with an happy ending,
right?
But that it really also has some groundedness in spirituality. Yeah, but that's of course something you can Google now, just for the people who want to like look into that. But also like conscious sexuality or sacred sexuality, which really gives this the sacredness to sex, where tantric practices are also having a lot to do with the energy, with breath work, with the connectedness to the universe and everything, and that sex can be holy and a spiritual practice in itself, which is difficult for Christians sometimes, but in this way there it really is seen as that. And what I like also as a Christian about it, you can also just really take more the connected practices out of it, like to give just sex an intention. To create like a little kind of temple around us with candles and symbols which support us, and see it as something more sacred. Putting a focus in, I don't know, our heart, for example, so that our hearts can connect during this, or we could breathe like from our hearts to the heart of the other person and let the energy flow. So I really like these practices which are so sacred and energetic and connected.
I know. I'm like, I want to look more into like, what's your conscious sexuality? Is that what you call it?
Yeah, so that's also how it's often called. So this means like these practices. So I, for example, learned from Layla Martin. She also has a great YouTube channel. If anyone wants to check that out, she's also pretty cool. I did her coaching certification, and she does a lot of, bringing it across in a very modern way, I would say. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Have you, I guess, have you had any experiences with people proposing their, like maybe the shame or guilt that they have behind intimacy, tying, like connecting, I don't know how to say this, like connecting like their religion behind it? Like, has that been like their religion being a part of why they can't connect, because the shame and the guilt around their religious views? Maybe?
Yeah. So I would say where I work in Germany, it's not so much the case. It's probably more in the US, but also my husband is Dutch and he grew up quite conservative. So I have this topic very close to me. And it has been quite a topic, that there are things internalized, which are not God-given. No, of course, people could now discuss about it, but I would say a lot of this shame around sexuality is very much man-made.
Yeah.
People read about and made sense of, with their human minds.
Yeah.
And then you internalize, no, like not self-pleasuring, or it's a bad thing, or stuff like this. And it's there, it's influencing.
Yeah.
Very, very much. And I see him struggling. And it sometimes comes up, but he's working through it, and he very much saw that it's also from his perspective more man's made than God made. And, to getting this out of the system and connecting also just with the love sex is. It's not a dirty thing.
Right.
It's really good if you bring awareness into it, and if you really feel like, okay, why do I want to have sex? Is it good for my body? Is it good for my heart right now? Does it really feed me? Or am I just like doing it to compensate, or because I'm supposed to, or I don't know, but really like feeling into it and deciding consciously for a yes. And it can be a beautiful thing we are given.
Absolutely. I agree. I love that. Yeah. I love that response. I agree. I mean, the love, if we can connect it to love and heart space and the beauty, it's creation.
Yeah, very much.
I love that. Oh, this has been so good. I'm like, oh my God, talking about all the things.
So it's just very important to not just think like, it doesn't work out with sex, so my partner is wrong or I'm broken. Right. It's not that, monocausal, is this a word? So it's not like so simple. There is so much playing into if you are in the mood. There can be so much internal stuff, like you were also touching upon right now. There can be so much like in the body, which is still there and need to be released. And to really keep that in mind and go on the search there, and not just think you are broken or your partner is wrong.
Yeah. If anyone, is resonating with this, thinking there's something wrong with them or that they're broken, are there any, I mean, obviously working with you, reaching out to you would be one thing that they could do, but is there anything, like any self-help books or anything that, I don't know, any type of things that they could go to start maybe like introducing healing into them before if they're not ready yet to make an investment in.
Very good question. So important, because not everyone can. So I think I'm actually gonna send you something which you can put underneath. Is this possible?
Yeah.
Because I read so much, and now like looking for like the things. But for example, like Come As You Are, I now don't know who wrote it, but I think I Googled it, Emily Nagoski, I think. That's a very nice one. She's also on a very scientific way of thinking, but that's also nice and very entertainingly written. But it gives you a lot of insights of how lust works and female bodies work, and stress influences everything. And that's already a very good start. But I will like look at my big bookshelf and look which few books would be a good start because there are now just too many. So I will send this to you.
Okay. Yeah, definitely do. I'll add it to the show notes, and that would be
show notes. Exactly.
Show notes.
And also Layla Martin. That's like watching her videos, also her old videos. So it really, she also developed over time, and I also liked her very simple ones. So for example, she did actually a video which I found years later and had to cry again about why it's good to cry after sex. That's one of her videos, and she puts it so nicely. So if anyone like cried after sex and is confused, that's a great video to watch. So just scrolling a bit through her account.
Okay.
That's also nice. Yes. And just knowing that there might be parts, which need care. So there could be something which needs care. If it's not the circumstances, there could be something which needs care, and looking for someone, or just feeling into where does it feel, where does it not feel so well when I have sex? Where is this? And maybe just putting the hand on that space on the body and breathing lovingly into that. Because in the end, it's just something which needs love. It's nothing which wants to like do something bad to you or ruin your sex life. It's just something which needs care.
Yeah.
Pardon you. And the more love you give to that, the more it will be integrated and you can well live with it. Instead of fighting against it. This will just never help. Or you really need to cut a lot of emotions away. Right. And then you also don't have a great sex life.
Right. Yeah.
And it's so okay to cry. It can just show that you are healing. That it can just show like how I now look at the situation I was talking about, that I felt so safe with that partner back then that these parts showed up, and it could have been healing. Yeah, if he would have just helped me and I would have allowed myself to cry in his arms, it could have been so healing instead of like fighting against me. Right. That's so sad to see it now. And that's probably how I also just went into what I do now. But really seeing also like all the emotions. I mean, it's so close. Someone comes so close to you and all the emotions which come up. It can even be anger or grief or whatever. It can all be part of your healing. And sex can be a place where you can heal and where these things come up because someone is so close and maybe so safe that this can all come up. So just allow the emotions, explain your partner, and that's wonderful. Don't be afraid. Don't fight against you. Let your body just release what wants to be released and express what wants to be expressed. And it doesn't have to do anything with your partner. It can even have to do with your mother. Right. during sex, like some anger coming up which was suppressed. Just let your body shake or do whatever it wants. And let your partner know that you are now just healing and that he's a great rock and support in that.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Oh.
Yeah, and I'm a big fan of somatic experiencing. It's especially for trauma, somatic trauma work. But for me, it also really helped to do something with the body because we have sex with the body. And there are sometimes like things stuck in the body and to work with that way. So looking for someone who does somatic experiencing if you already know that there is trauma, or if you just want to have a look what's going on or connect more to your body, it's a great thing.
I love that. Yeah. Huh. Okay. Yeah. I know you and I had touched on somatic experiencing, but now I'm like, oh, in that regard, okay, like maybe that would be something I would love to explore.
Yeah. And otherwise, what helped me also was parts work. That's also something which can be Googled. Richard Schwartz does a lot in it, but there are different things. I also learned it with Layla Martin, parts work, but really seeing that there is not just one. You are not just one. There are different parts in you. So there can be a part which freaks out during sex, but this is then you feel it because this is on the main stage. This is now what you identify yourself with. But actually, there might also be the sex goddess inside of you. But because there is a screaming child or whatever right now, you just see that screaming child and think, oh, something's wrong with me because this part is so present. So parts work was also really a big part in my healing journey, if you so will, and in my work itself.
I love that. Yeah, I'm learning about parts right now. So I
love it.
Yeah. Like what part of me is showing up today?
Yeah, and getting in relationship with this, and also that can help with attachment. I don't know if this was touched upon in the podcast, but when you have like good relationship with your parts, then you are practicing attachment and relationship and creating safe spaces, and from there you can also go better in relationship to others.
So important. Yeah, that's so key. That's so true. Acknowledging all parts of you is you're practicing a more secure attachment style.
Yeah.
And then if you're not acknowledging, then you're either anxious or avoidant.
Exactly. Yeah. No, and I think also for this, it can just help to know, okay, that's not all of me. There's just now one part which thinks that, or one part which screams loud. And okay, it has an opinion. Thank you so much. You just want the best for me. You just try to protect me in any way, which makes sense in your own logic. No, but there's also more to me. There are also other parts.
I love that. Wow. So good, Rebecca. I loved it.
Yeah.
I could talk. I feel like every single episode, I'm like, I could talk to this person forever.
Yeah.
Thank you. No, this was so good. Is there anything else that you would like to share, or any last little tip or advice or anything?
No, I think I now pressed it in the last minute. I think there was enough information for now. I think I said everything.
Yeah.
And I will still send you the books. So everyone who's listening, check them out.
That'd be awesome. And if people wanted to find you, how can they connect with you?
Yeah, so for the English speaking, it's the Queen's School, but I will also send you this. And for the German speaking, it's Rebecca-Mulder-Sohn.de. If there are any Germans. I will also send this to you again.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here, and again for sending me that DM, because we wouldn't be here if you didn't. So
yeah, was a pleasure to meet you in that way, and to also just witness you on your path is so beautiful.
Thank you.
Now also to being in this kind of exchange was great. Thank you.
You're so welcome. You're so welcome. You're changing lives and impacting a lot of women and men. So thank you for your work.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. If you loved this episode, please download, share, rate, and review. If you are ready to step into that next level version of you and grow your business and bank account, it's time to unleash your goddess magic and chase life with Kelly. You can start this epic expansion journey by diving into the Goddess Magic course bundle found at chaselifetogether.com. Please connect with me on Instagram at Chase Life with Kelly. Join the Chase Life with Kelly Facebook community and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Till next time, create the life you crave, babe, and chase life with Kelly.